It's coming up soon, and we've all got our hopes. Hey folks, Doctor Who Series 12 is right around the corner. It is coming up fast, and before we get into it, I thought I would put on the record what some of my hopes for Series 12 are. Now, I am not an enormous fan of Series 11. It might actually be my least favorite series. I didn't hate everything about it. A couple of the episodes I thought were genuinely great, and I've laid out in pretty explicit detail what my problems were, and I felt the need to do that because a lot of the problems I have are not the things that the most vocal critics of Series 11 tend to shout about. I had the same problem with Last Jedi. But I'm coming back hopeful because this is still my favorite show and I want it to be good. So what I'm going to talk about here is just what I hope will happen or not happen in Series 12. None of this is plot related. None of this is, ooh, I want them to do this story or that. Like, no. And I'm also not really taking into account the things that are known, because we've seen clips of some of the upcoming premiere, Spyfall. We know some of the creatures that are going to show up. We know certain things, but I'm not the kind of person like to dissect that and try and paint a picture of what I think is precisely going to happen. So, like, that's not really entering into most of my thought processes on this. Some of these are big ideas, thematic, some of them are minor, but let's get through it. So the first is, I want them to find a purpose for Yaz. Because I don't think Yaz is a bad character, but the show has not done a lot with her. Right now, so far, the most important function she had was to hook us into Demons of the Punjab, which was one of the best episodes of Series 11. But as a character, she didn't do a lot. She didn't contribute a lot. Some of the perspective she brought to certain events was also being brought by Ryan or by the Doctor. There hasn't been a lot to distinguish her as an individual. And I hope that they'll find the time to do that, either by giving her a little bit of her own arc, because in Series 11, Graham and Ryan had an arc. Yaz didn't really, so maybe they'll do that. Or maybe they'll just find a function she serves within the group that none of the others fulfill. I would hope her background as a police officer would in some way factor into that and certainly gives them groundwork to do it, but they haven't yet, and I really hope they do, especially since they're keeping a rather crowded TARDIS. If you're going to keep this many around, have a reason for them to be there. So that's the first one. Next up, I really want them to make the TARDIS feel like a home again. There's a couple of things that contribute to this. In Series 11, the TARDIS, first of all, we spent very little time in there. It just got us from place to place. It never felt like the home base that they returned to. It was just the vehicle. And it didn't help how darkly lit it was. It didn't feel like a place you would want to be, a place where you would want to just dwell. Because the other iterations of the TARDIS that we've had in modern era Doctor Who, not all of them felt super homey. I would argue Matt Smith's first TARDIS was the most felt like a home, especially with, when he had Amy and Rory, and they kept coming back there and spent a lot of time in there. But even going back to classic era Doctor Who, they would spend more time in the console room. That's where they would come back to meet the Doctor and the companions, and it never felt like anybody wanted to get back inside the TARDIS during Series 11. Other than like that very first moment of them finding it in the Ghost Monument. And that was a great moment, but after that, it was basically just their ride and nothing else. And the TARDIS should be more than that. And I kind of hope they'll build that up a little bit better. Next up, okay, I need more focus on the Doctor. This is another upshot of the fact that I don't think it was a good idea to introduce a 4-person TARDIS crew in a series where we didn't know any of these characters already, especially a series with fewer episodes. I didn't feel like I got this Doctor. I didn't feel like I understood what Jodie Whittaker's approach really was until the very end of Series 11. And that frustrated me. And I think part of the reason that I felt that was because she was sharing basically equal time with the companions. Now, that's not inherently a bad thing, but it did mean I felt like out of those four, the characters who I understood best were Ryan and Graham. And while they're good characters, and I'm happy to know them, I'm here for the Doctor. I want to know this Doctor. So I want to get a better sense of her. I want her to be more focused, more front and center, deal more with how things affect her directly. Because it felt like almost everything got filtered through the companions in some way in the previous series. And I'm not going to say that didn't work. For some stories it worked very well, but I want more of the Doctor herself. Please give it to me. All right, what else have I got? Oh, all right, this is a minor nitpicky one. I really hope Jodie Whittaker changes the way she's wielding the sonic screwdriver because, look, plenty of people made fun of Matt Smith treating it like a magic wand because he was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Honestly, that didn't bother me all that much, and that never felt nearly as much like a magic wand as does. I hate this big arm arch. I hate this big exaggerated motion. It's a tool. Bring it up and use it. Generally, if you're using it, it's because you need it. Don't do this. Stop. Just don't. That's a minor one, but that bugged me. All right, what else have I got? Okay, the last two are basically interconnected, so I'll lump them together. Don't throw out everything different you did in Series 11. And don't immediately bring back everything you didn't use in Series 11. This is about the one area where I am going to take into account some of the things we know, like the fact that older monsters and aliens are coming back, a number of them. And that makes me nervous, because Series 11 did quite a bit different. It had entirely self-contained stories. It really had no two-parters. It did little cliffhanger connections from one to the next, but there weren't any two-parters. There was no overarching story of the entire thing. The visual approach was different. There were no returning monsters. And also, I felt like a lot more thought went into the historical episodes in particular, and that's one thing I definitely want them to retain. Now, this doesn't always work, but in my mind, the best historical stories are ones who take the historical figure and show how what they were going through in some way parallels stuff still going on. That's what Vincent and the Doctor did. That's what Demons of the Punjab did. That's what, as much as I'm actually not nearly as big a fan of it as most people, but that's what Rosa did. And I admire it for aiming for that, even though I have mixed feelings about the end results of it. And that's what I want the approach to be. Because in my mind, the reason why I'm pretty quick to usually say I don't really like the historical episodes is because I hate the approach that I feel happens more often than not with modern era Doctor Who, which is, oh, look, famous historical person. Whee! It's Queen Victoria and werewolves, which has what to do with anything. It's vampires in Venice. Okay? I understand some people just like that. I get it. But in my mind, if you're going to do a historical episode in a point of Earth's history, make what was going on there relevant to us. And I feel like they tried to do that with all of the historically set episodes in Series 11. I don't think it worked in all of them. I don't think it really worked in The Witch Hunters at all. I would debate how well it worked in Rosa, but definitely worked better there. I thought it worked amazingly in Demons of the Punjab, but I admire that approach and I want them to keep that. But I mentioned all the old creatures coming back. I'm not saying that I never wanted them to bring back the various things that got dropped off and left behind in Series 11. Things like two-parters, old villains, series arcs, etc. I just needed a break from them. And it's kind of ironic that the series that gave me a break from them was a series I ended up not liking all that much. But there you go. But I'm not saying those things can't come back or that I never want them to come back. But if they all come back at once in Series 12, that smacks of a creative team that doesn't have a plan. that basically is going, well, we tried something different, not enough people connected to it, bring everything back. That smacks of a lack of integrity, a lack of having a true sense of what you intend to do with it. To just go, well, we did something, didn't work, let's do it the way everyone expects us to. Like, I'm hoping that, you know, we're gonna get two-parters back, at the very least with the opening. So, okay, those are back. And we're getting some of Old Monsters. I'm hoping that Old Monsters are a minority of episodes. And I hope we don't go back to the Mystery Box series arc template. I really hope that. Because that basically would just mean they brought back everything. And that just feels like pandering. And again, it feels like a lack of a plan, a lack of an intent. And I want to give Chibnall more benefit of the doubt than that, but I'm kind of afraid that that's what he's going to do. I want Series 12 to retain some of the elements that it brought to play. The approach it took to historicals. I'm not going to say never happened in previous modern era Doctor Who episodes, but it happened very rarely, and I saw that approach applied to all 3 historicals, even though it didn't work every time. The approach to cinematography. Loved it. Loved the new look and the feel of the thing. Please, keep that. And there are things worth bringing back. The sense of the TARDIS, as I mentioned. You know, there are things to bring back, but if it just ends up being the trappings, that would worry me. We'll see what we get. Premiere's not too long from now. I'm still hopeful. I want to love it. I will always want to love Doctor Who. No matter who's running it, no matter what's going on, I want to love this show. We'll see if I do. Series 12, what do you hope for? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's stuff to do down there as well, because you can support me on Patreon. It helps me pay the bills. I've also got a tip jar on PayPal. Both links for that down below. Comment, subscribe, like, share, all that usual stuff. But you also don't have to do any of it, because end of the day, folks, you're the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.